Hello guys, welcome back to a video. This is going to be a very chatty Q&A specifically around the travel trip that I have currently just started. Clearly I'm filming this before we go, but I get a lot of questions on my Instagram anyway, but obviously since I started mentioning this like backpacking trip that Tom and I want to do, I have had the same sort of questions just over and over and over again. So I thought I'm gonna sit down and film a video like this before I really get into any of the kind of like travel vlogs specifically, because carrying on from that, completely lost my train of thought, but basically I get a lot of the same questions and I thought it would just be easier to answer them before we really get into the travel content. That's what I was saying. I asked you guys on Instagram what you wanted to know really. I have compiled them into a list on my laptop because I was really just getting the same things over and over again, so I thought I will break it down into sections, and this is going to be quite a thorough in-depth look at this specific travel trip that we're doing. So this is probably going to be useful if you're interested in traveling yourself, or just if you want to know a little bit more about it, I guess. And if that's not you and you're sticking around and you're watching this anyway, thanks. But without further ado, let's get into it. Subscribe if you are new around here. There's going to be a lot of travel content coming your way, and let's just get into it. The first thing that I have written down in front of me is planning. Now obviously this is a pretty obvious place to start. Now the first question really was, where are you going, when are you going, how long are you going for, that kind of thing. So I'm going to try to be super speedy in this video. We are not going to Australia. A lot of the questions that I got were tailored towards Australia. This is not an Australia trip. We are planning a trip to Australia, but not in this trip, if that makes sense, just because when we started to organize this, Australia was still closed, the borders weren't open, we really couldn't put any plans into place, so we just thought let's just wait a little bit. I'd rather go once everything was opened up, and also it's coming into Australian winter, so we want to be there in Australian summer. So basically this is a Southeast Asia trip, and the countries that we are intending, fingers crossed, to visit are Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, and maybe, this is a big maybe, Japan. Japan is a maybe because it's going to probably take the place of another country if we can't get to one of those countries, because our initial route does not include it, but it is a country that both Tom and I do want to go to at some point, even if we don't do it on this trip. We don't have a time scale, but we do have a rough estimate, like when we want to be back, which is like around June or July, and that is because we want to actually spend the summer here in the UK with our family and with our friends before we leave again. And the timings just worked really well because obviously like all of our friends are away at university right now, they're not going to be back until summer, so coming back around then just seemed like a sensible time. And also we have a lot of things rescheduled from 2020, so like concerts, gigs, festivals, tickets to things that are all in the summer that have been like postponed. So obviously we could sell those, but we kind of thought, well, we've got these tickets, it makes sense for us to come back around that time. Yes, it probably does, but nothing is set in stone, like literally everything could change. Okay, the next thing that a lot of people were asking was, have you planned it in advance? Like how much planning have you done? And the answer is not really a lot. The first month is pretty organised, and that is because we are going to Thailand first, and we are actually doing a tour in Thailand. I know this is going to divide opinion. For some reason, so many people had issues with me doing a tour in Australia and then still calling it backpacking, but to me, like, if I'm taking a backpack and if I'm staying in hostels, I'm backpacking. But the reason we wanted to do a tour in Thailand is because neither of us have been to Asia properly before, and also it takes a lot of planning, like a lot of pre-planning, especially in the current climate, and these tours literally do that for you. And because I've been working full-time, Tom's been working full-time, there just wouldn't have been as much spare time to put into it, the organisation that it needed, without like having time off work to sort it out really, and without like, you know, really sitting down and thinking about it, when we'd found the absolute dream tour that we wanted to do together. And we just thought, well, let's start with this, and then from there we don't have anything booked, we don't have any more tours booked, we don't have anything planned, we don't even have like flights sorted out. The first month is organised, and then after that all we really have is like a rough route that we want to do. We don't know if we're going to join more tours, we don't know if we're going to do the rest of it completely on our own. But I had a really genuinely positive experience doing tours in Australia. I loved it so much, I made so many amazing friends that way, and I think value for money wise they are really good, and I'm a big advocate for them. So, you know, yeah, we are doing our first tour in Thailand with True Travels. I've never done a tour with them before. I have spoke to the team, they all seem very lovely. They've been incredible and have really helped us get our head around it, because traveling in this climate is not the same as traveling pre-pandemic, so it's been really helpful actually. Yeah, the theme of like tours was a big question, and that is the answer really. We've booked on to do one, and we might do more, we probably will do more. We haven't organised it, and we definitely don't plan on doing the whole entire trip in tours, just because we are a couple this time. I'm not travelling by myself, so I think, you know, we can definitely do a lot more as a pair than I would have maybe felt comfortable doing completely solo. But again, that's just personal preference. Every single person is different. The next thing a lot of people were asking was, how did you decide where you wanted to visit? And for me, this was easy. Like, when I was in Australia last time, I met people that had been to most of these countries that we've spoken about, and I was just like, I just fell in love with the idea of visiting them myself. I just really wanted to go. I've researched them. I watched so many vlogs on YouTube that literally I feel like I've already been, because I've seen them so many times. Like, Vietnam is really high on my list because I watch loads of like Vietnam travel vlogs. I don't really know why. So I guess I've just had this natural draw to these countries for whatever reason really, but kind of because I've known somebody that's been to all of them that's like recommended it. A lot of you guys were asking how I've organised this, and so the way we've done it, as I mentioned, the first month has been booked with a tour, so they literally organise it for you, and that is why I love it. But also obviously, like, we've organised getting there, we've organised all of the COVID stuff. Like, there's just been a lot to keep on top of, even without what we're doing once we get there. So I think my top tip for organisation is to get on top of it early, don't leave things till last minute, and just do your research as well. I think you can just learn so much just from googling. For tours, I will list the tour groups that I look at and have checked out before here. It's easier than reading through them. I will also link them all down in the description below. Okay, so another really common theme was packing, and I have actually uploaded a completely separate video on what I'm taking with me, so I'll link that down below so that you can watch it if you do want to have a bit more of an insight. But if you're not interested, basically, short version, Tom and I are actually taking backpacks, not a suitcase. The reason for this, and I did say that I wouldn't do this before, is purely because the terrain in Asia is slightly different to Australia. I think that there's going to be a lot more like boats and overnight trains and transport that's less straightforward to get a suitcase on and off of. But also I do think there's definitely an element of it is easier to travel with a backpack. You don't have to be able to like carry it up the stairs, and like I would love to take a suitcase, but I just know that practicality wise it's probably easier not to, and that if I did take a suitcase, I'm aware that I would have to lift it, and I'm just like physically not strong enough. So maybe if you're really strong, that wouldn't be an issue. I definitely know people that have travelled Asia with a suitcase. I don't think you should let it put you off, but for me this time we are backpacking with actual backpacks. So for the people last time that were like, that wasn't backpacking, this time it is backpacking because I've got a backpack. Okay, next. Can you tell I'm doing this quite quick fire? Top 5 things that you should take backpacking that you might not think of. Now this is a really good question. Obviously I can't fully answer it until I've actually like done this trip, because Australia was a very different kind of travel. Gonna give it my best shot. First thing, insect repellent. If you forget it, you can probably buy it out there, but literally don't step outside without it. Everything bites you. Literally everything bites you. So microfiber towels, because you know you have to get dry and you cannot pack an actual towel. And I guess most people think of that, but I hadn't thought of it until I went backpacking, because I'd never gone on a holiday where you needed to take a towel. Packing cubes are my third thing. These are absolutely essential. I just don't think you can pack without them. Number 4 is clothes that roll up really small, and I know that's very broad, but I'm talking about clothes that are made of the fabric that's kind of like sportswear, so like leggings, gym shorts, gym tops, like that material that literally rolls up so tight, because if you then put that in your packing cubes, you can fit so much more. Stay away from like denim, heavy materials, anything like that, because I just think you want to be able to literally roll it up so that it's like tiny. And the last thing, this is quite weird, bit niche, but Tom and I have actually ordered a portable charger that is a solar panel. So you attach it to your bag and it charges itself from the sunlight, and obviously where we're going there's hopefully going to be a lot of sun, so you never have to like plug it in to charge it. So if you're anywhere without power, you've always got like a backup battery that you don't need to worry about dying. I actually think that's genius. I didn't take one of those last time. Tom found that online, so like pretty handy. Okay, the next one, I got a lot of questions about Tom, and I do sort of wish I'd filmed this video with him, but currently he is at work. But that was a big theme, was how is Tom getting the time off work? How is Tom affording it? Like all of these sort of questions, and I did answer these on my Instagram story not too long ago, but I guess maybe some of you missed it or skipped past it. It probably was quite long. But yeah, Tom is leaving his job to do this with me. I just don't think you can feasibly travel for like 4 months and keep your job, really. I mean, I'm saying that as if I'm not literally doing that, but like obviously because Tom works with somebody else, I just don't really know what kind of job that would be plausible. So because of that, obviously it is going to be a big shift. However, this is not a decision we just decided to make like last month. We've been planning this trip since the summer of 2020, so like it's been a long time coming. And Tom actually changed jobs last year, so when he moved to his new job, he went and was just super open about it and said, look, this isn't going to be a long-term thing, we are going backpacking at some point. And his boss was really understanding, and I definitely think that helped, because obviously if you work in a job where they're not chill and they don't like that and they don't want to hire you if you're gonna leave, then that could be an issue. But also everybody is within their rights to leave their job at any time, really, for any reason, as long as you give notice. So yeah, Tom has really used the last 2 years of like the lockdowns just to save up and to kind of decide like how long he wanted to do it for, where he wanted to go, because initially he obviously didn't come to Australia with me. Yeah, I definitely don't want you guys to think that I've like forced Tom to come with me and like forced Tom to quit his job. Like I probably would have done this anyway, but Tom joining me is a dream, and I'm so excited to get to have these experiences together. And I also feel incredibly lucky that we've had, you know, a definite position of privilege. I'm not saying that we haven't, to be able to save up and to be able to put this money aside, and for me to be able to keep my job and keep my income whilst I travel is obviously a blessing, and is obviously something that a lot of people don't have. So yeah, that was a big one. Tom's job and income was a big one. So I am still going to be vlogging, I'm still going to be uploading, I'm obviously going to be doing slightly less work on like Instagram and TikTok with like brands and stuff, just because I'm not in the country. But generally my content is still going to be hopefully pretty consistent, especially on Instagram because it's a bit more casual. But I'm aiming to still be putting out like 2 videos a week on YouTube as well, so hopefully, fingers crossed, everything is going to be good. A lot of people are asking if we're going to be working in different jobs while we're out there in this trip. No, we're not. We're not planning on getting any sort of job, just because we've saved up for this trip and we don't really want to work and travel. However, if and when we go to Australia, I think the chances are we're probably going to go on working visas, and then that situation might be different. However, I do still think that I'm going to be doing this job, to be honest, because I think that would work. However, obviously if circumstances change, then we would just reassess that. Okay, whilst we're on the topic of Tom, a lot of people are asking, how do you think you'll deal with being together so closely? Will you argue? I mean, I'm hoping not. Obviously all couples bicker, all couples argue, but I actually think that Tom and I are stronger when we do spend prolonged time together. Like, we work and communicate so much better face to face rather than like over text or over the phone. And obviously we're lucky we don't really have to do that, but like I notice it when we are apart from each other for longer periods of time, that like we are just better together, which I guess is good. That's the point of a relationship. But no, I'm not too worried about it, because I think that we're both quite calm. He really balances me out if I'm getting stressed as well, which is a good thing. Somebody also asked, will we be staying in private hostel rooms or shared dorms? And I really think the answer is just a mix of both. I know in Thailand, because of the tour we're doing, we're going to be in a single room, like a room just us two for the whole tour, but kind of because of the way the hostels are in Thailand, a lot of them are like 2-bed hostel rooms. So I think in Thailand we'll be together for all of it, but then after that I'm not against sharing a hostel dorm room. Like, it is what it is. Obviously don't want to do it for long extensive time, but like also we're backpacking, we're kind of expecting that. Okay, the last 2 sections are budgeting and COVID, and these were where I got the most questions, so let's talk money. A lot of people asking how we've saved up, and I guess the answer just is we both work full-time jobs. I'm in a really lucky position where this job is pretty well paid. Also, I really can't stress enough to you how much of a silver lining of the lockdown this was. Like, we had no real outgoings for 2 years, and it was in those 2 years that we decided that we wanted to do this. So we have been putting money away into a joint travel account for over a year now. Like, we've been really planning this, and we wanted to get to going and be in a position where we were comfortable, and it wasn't going to be like, oh, we're scrimping and scraping. Like, we want to be able to do it and not have to worry about it. I mean, I say that we are going to be staying in hostels like the whole time. I think maybe there's going to be a couple of places where we want to stay in like slightly nicer hotels just for like a video, so I could like review it or like, you know, have a bit more of a holiday experience. But generally it's going to be hostel, 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 hostel. Like, I'm not bothered, I'm not fussy, and I actually really surprisingly liked staying in hostels in Australia, and I think Tom will too. So yeah. A lot of people asking, what is our budget? Do we have a strict budget? How much have you saved? That kind of thing. I don't have a super strict budget. Like I say, I've just been saving and saving and saving, to be honest, but I do have a rough idea in my head. The base cost of getting out there and the first month in Thailand and all of the extra COVID things was 2 grand. So I'm going to be really honest about this. Like, that includes an entire month in Thailand. It actually also includes a lot of the food and the meals in Thailand as well. The flights from Manchester to Bangkok, and also all of the PCR testing. And I don't think that's too bad. So that covers the whole first month. And then after that, I kind of am aiming for like 900 to £1,000 per month that we're away, because Asia is so crazy cheap that I think you can kind of work that out. If I say we're aiming to be away for about 3 or 4 months, £1 a month, that's kind of a rough budget. Like I say, we have been saving up and putting money into a joint account, but also we do have separate savings as well. So yeah, really it should be hopefully very doable, because like I say, Asia's very, very cheap. Hostels are so cheap. Food is literally, I'm talking like pennies. Like, it is not an expensive place to backpack, unlike Australia, which was. Australia, I spent so much money for the amount of time that I was there. So I do think this is definitely going to be cheaper by comparison. In fact, probably cheaper overall, and it's like triple the amount of time. So okay, and the last thing that I just want to quickly go over is COVID, and obviously traveling during these times. This was something I probably got the most questions about. It has affected this trip, mainly because it's been pushed back about 4 times. But now that we're actually going, hopefully fingers crossed, once we actually get there and get in, it's not going to be too different to if we travelled pre-pandemic. The difference has definitely come in getting there and the airport experience. So we do have to do a fit to fly PCR test before we leave England. We then also have to do 2 quarantine stays in Thailand. These are very bizarre in my opinion. Like, when we get there, we have to quarantine on night 1 in a specific quarantine hotel that the Thai government have approved. However, this is a 5-star resort. You just have to have your first night in Thailand there, if that makes sense, and that is so that they can PCR test you again. So that is on the first day when we get there, and then again on the 5th day we have to stay in a government approved hotel, but the same applies, like, so that we can have another COVID test. So what it actually is like 2 PCR tests in a specific location rather than like quarantining. I think they've just called it that because kind of it's easier to understand. So obviously that's different to if we'd gone to Thailand pre-2020. Other than that, everything has been fairly straightforward, with the exception of you do have to have a Thai pass to enter Thailand. You don't have to have a visa if you're coming in from the UK and you're only staying for a month. If you stay for longer than a month, you do have to have a visa, but you do have to have a Thai pass. And from what I can understand, this is kind of the Thailand equivalent of a passenger locator form, which is what you have to travel within Europe. Tom and I have travelled within Europe 3 times in the last like year, and we've kind of got the hang of it. Thailand have this different document, but it's essentially the exact same, just with a different name. It is a lot of form filling out, I'm not gonna lie, but we have just about got it all sorted. So we've got our 2 hotel night stays, our Thai pass. Booking the flights was literally the exact same as normal. There was no difference in the flight. And then also we had to book a PCR test for 72 hours before we fly. I guess that's also different. However, once we've done all of that, and fingers crossed it goes right, that is the thing I'm the most nervous about. Obviously having 3 PCR tests so close to each other, I'm very nervous that like there's a potential that one of us is going to test positive. Obviously we are aware of that potential. After that, everything is exactly the same. There are no real restrictions in Thailand anymore. They've lifted like all of the different zones, so like the whole country is just the same now, which is good. I do think you still have to wear a mask, but I mean, that's really not an issue for me. I really don't care. And I do sort of think that that's pretty much it. A lot of people are asking, are we nervous? The answer is no. Like, we really want to go, and we've been planning it for such a long time, and this is the first opportunity really that we've had to be able to go and it be open and it be up and running, and the tours are running again. We're both triple vaccinated. We've taken all of the measures that we can. I haven't left my house for a week before we fly, which is like, it's long, but hopefully going to be worth it. I mean, yeah, we are aware of the risks. At the moment I am a little bit stressed, but I think once the stress passes and we've got through our 2 different PCR tests, I'll just be able to enjoy it. We're free to just go wherever we want, enjoy the country, and I'm so excited to see Thailand as a country, the culture, the people, the islands, as well as the rest of Asia. I'm saying Thailand as if we're only going to Thailand. I'm not, it's just that nothing else is booked or finalised. I'm just so excited. Like, I feel like a ball of vibrating excitedness. Like, I could cry. I did cry about this yesterday because I was just very overwhelmed and like, oh my god, I can't believe it's actually here. I can't believe it's happening. It feels like a fever dream that I've had throughout the last 2 years, and now it's going to become a reality. Ah! I'm excited, and I've got pins and needles in my bloody leg. Ah! But guys, I think that does pretty much round up this video. I am going to be on a lot of overnight sleeper trains in the next coming days, so I would love to reply to your comments whilst I'm on them. So if you do have any other questions, do just let me know down below. I've tried to cover a pretty wide base, but I know that some of you might have specific questions, and hopefully I can answer some of them. Like I say, if you do want to know more about the packing, that video is already up, check that out. And other than that, all I'm really going to say is subscribe so that you don't miss the content. We are very excited to be able to create it for you guys. Oh, and also if any of you guys have been to Asia or Thailand and have any recommendations, places we should go, foods we should try, things like that, let me know down in the comments below, because that would be really helpful and appreciated too. Yeah, subscribe so that you don't miss that. Make sure that you have my notifications on and you're following me on Instagram, because there's going to be some good shorter form content and photo content over there. And other than that, I shall see you guys on Saturday with the first Thailand vlog. Travel to Thailand with us. That'll be up on Saturday. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and I'll see you then. Bye guys.